this week's version of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. And we have with us today Dory Vickery, who is the superintendent of the Sheridan School District, and Casey Kula, Yamhill County Commissioner. We have Director Lindsay Manfred from Health and Human Services at Yamhill County. We have Takesha Wydra from the Sheridan Chamber of Commerce. We have Mayor Linda Watkins from the City of Carleton. We have Howie Harkema from Encompass Yamhill Valley. And we have Joya Goodrum from the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce. And Joya, before we get started, I just want to note that I saw chamber greeters out in the street the other day. So congratulations on having it in person.
Yeah, we've been meeting in person over at the fairgrounds and on the street. So it's super cool. Thank you. Thanks for noticing that. We're really happy to be together again.
It was very exciting to see you, and I'm glad that you didn't see me because I was in a very big, dirty, loud vehicle. So
it would have been okay.
All right. Well, with that, I would love to have us get started with Director Manfred. And I asked her to join us so that we could hear about virus dynamics in the county, how vaccine distribution is going, and any thoughts on both the 65% benchmark and the 70% benchmark and how those are different. And our county administrator and I got all confused in what's the denominator and what's the numerator, because some of us know math better than others. So Director Manfred, thank you for joining us.
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. So the latest metrics just were released looking at what counties may be able to move based on case counts. And of course, Yamhill County, while we continue to see those cases going down week over week, which is a great thing, we are still in high risk based on the latest data, which shows over the course of the last 2 weeks, we had 151 cases, which brings us to about 139 per 100,000. And in order to move to moderate risk, you need to be below 100 cases per 100,000. So we're definitely getting closer, because we were creeping up at close to over 200 several weeks ago. So it's definitely trending in the right way, and our positivity rate has actually dropped this last duration of time too, back down to 3.4, which has been where we've been sitting for the majority of the pandemic, but did see that spike to over 5% over this last surge. So it's reassuring to see that coming down as well. The vaccine metric, as you mentioned, Commissioner Kula, there are really two metrics that the state's looking at. One is a statewide metric, and the other one is a local county metric. The statewide metric is looking at those who are 18 plus, who have had at least one dose of vaccine, trying to get to 70%. That's the target. There has been indication that once statewide there is that benchmark met, the 70%, that well, I haven't seen anything in writing. Essentially, the conversations are the risk framework would go away, which would mean there would no longer be those risk categories. So, of course, we need to wait and see what actually happens at that 70%, but that is what the indication has been of what would happen. Of course, any CDC regulations, recommendations, and things like that, the governor's office has also indicated that those would likely remain in place. So, again, depending on how long it takes us to get there, those things might change, but that's where we're at now. The county metric is slightly different. So that one is looking at those who are 16 years and older and trying to meet the benchmark of 65% of the 16 years and older who have had at least one dose of vaccine. Currently, Yamhill County, we are at between 54.9 and 55.9%. We're working on some validation pieces. That's why we're still, but it's within that 1% there. That is an increase of around 5 to 6% from when this metric was first released about 2 weeks ago. So if that gives you a little bit of an indication of how fast we're moving, that is sort of where we're at. Now, that means that at minimum, if nothing changes in their percentages and we continue to vaccinate at the pace we are, we're at least 4 weeks out or so before we would be eligible to meet that metric. So, and if a county meets the 65% metric before the statewide metric is made or met, the county gets to move to low risk despite any case counts. So that's sort of the the goal is to hit that 65%, which would allow us to move into low risk, while the rest of the state tries to get to that 70% category. So we're definitely still making strides. We're definitely still seeing demand for vaccine, although much slower, than certainly we were seeing as we first began to roll out the vaccine. But there are still, hundreds and hundreds of people being vaccinated each week. We still have people coming to vaccine events. So there's definitely still those out there who are wanting to get vaccine. Our really goal at this point has been to try to find ways to get vaccine to people as easily as possible, to show up where people are going to be, to make it easy for those, so that people who want the vaccine but maybe aren't willing to scour the internet to try to figure out where they go can easily get it. And just want to say thank you to partners like Unidos and Providence, who have been working really hard to do that too, to send mobile teams out and to host events where we can be, and then of course local businesses who have requested us to be on site, to our local farmers markets who have had a boost for us. All of those things are really making a big impact in just easing the accessibility for folks to get the vaccine. So I'm happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Director Manfred, I was going to ask the first one, which is, what does the vaccine equity plan look like that the state is requested compared to what you have, and how do you put that into effect? And is that what the money that we have, as a pending agenda item, is that what it's going to be for? Is for implementing the vaccine equity plan?
Great question. So I mentioned the 65% benchmark for local counties. And the other piece to that is, in addition to meeting that metric, in order for a county to move to low risk, they also have to submit what Commissioner Kula is referencing, which they're stating an equity plan. It's 13 questions that the state is asking counties to provide information on. And it's really looking at how are we ensuring that vaccine is equitable across our location, our geographic region. And that can look a lot of different ways. It can look at populations that are most, that have been hardest hit with COVID illness. It can be at geographic regions, things like that. So there's a lot of similarities between the document that we put together, our equity and distribution plan several weeks ago. So definitely a lot of that content can just be picked up and moved in there. There is some more specificity that they're looking for around specific partners that we're working with and things like that. So assuming we're able to submit that document, that would all be reflected there, and we'd certainly make that. OHA will make those public, but we would make that public regardless.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I have trouble finding the number that is the current number that's heading towards 70%. When I look at the OHA website, there's not like, here's where, the goal is and here's where we are right now. Can you tell us what the statewide, I realize it's statewide and not the county, but. Yeah, statewide, I believe there are around 64 to 65% of the population has had at least one dose. And again, they're polling, the reason there's slightly different denominators, if you will, is the statewide metric they're polling from CDC data, because that feeds in more potential opportunities to increase that number, meaning people through the VA system, Indian Health Services that may not be feeding into the Oregon database are being fed into that database, and so it's a more accurate number. They can't use that because once you start getting more granular than state, it actually becomes less reliable because the addresses and pieces like that. So that's why they've got the two separate metrics, trying to be as accurate as possible with both of them. Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you. And it looks like Councilor Drabkin, welcome Councilor Drabkin, has a question. And then I want to make sure that Councilor Yarnell Holloman has an opportunity to share as well on this subject.
Thank you. I have 3 questions, and I'm sorry if you touched on any of this I was a few minutes late. One is the conversation is circulating around achieving this level of vaccination and then moving to low risk, but we're still, if I understand correctly, being slated in high risk. So when no one's talking about the moderate risk category, do we have an opportunity to move back to moderate risk regardless of vaccine levels before moving to low risk? That's one. Number two is, are you vaccinating, or at vaccination clinics, are you vaccinating people that are 16 years old without a parent present? And I forgot and then number three is about the metric you just talked about. So at what point does a person in a county or in the state, at what point do they get counted, and how is that recorded? Like, is it by my permanent my permanent residence, and so therefore, regardless of where I get vaccinated, I get counted towards my county's metric?
Okay, so I'll just take them in order if that works. So the move to moderate. So yes, counties are still eligible to move to moderate if their case counts indicate that they can, based on those. So if Yamhill County is still below the 65% threshold for vaccination status, but our case counts get below 100 cases per 100,000, we would move into moderate risk while we're in that time period. So definitely there's there's actually three ways to move, right? One is if the state meets its metric, then that essentially is, as we're being told, likely to go away. We can hit the vaccine metric at the local level and move to low risk, or our case counts could go down and move us into moderate or low risk based on those. In terms of the consent question, yes, currently Yamhill County clinics and all of the clinics that I'm aware of are vaccinating anyone 15 and older without parental consent per the Oregon statute. Anyone who is 12 to 14, so under 15, requires parental consent, but in most cases, the parental consent, there's a form they can fill out and they can send it with them, as we know that transportation and barriers with parents working can also be a barrier. So they have to provide the written consent, but they don't necessarily have to be present with them. Again, that's the 14 and under. And then the last question, just around the address and how things are getting counted. So really, it depends on the address that you give the place when you're getting your vaccine. So if you write, if you're in Salem getting your vaccine and your address is a McMinnville address that's on your paperwork, that's what gets put into the alert system. And so it counts toward Yamhill County. So no matter where you're getting your vaccine, wherever your address is, that's where it's getting counted in terms of the data points.
Councilor Grabkin, did you want to do any follow-up?
I did, thank you. And do you know where we are on our case counts right now in terms of that 100 per 100,000? Thank you.
Yes, we're at 139 cases per 100,000. So definitely trending down, but still above that 100 benchmark.
Thank you.
And then Director Manfred, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I understood that folks who got vaccinated either through the VA system or through Indian Health and through tribal partners, their names don't go, or their numbers don't go into the lottery. So to bring it to the next thing, which is the lottery, is that how you understand it?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. So I know that there seems to be some connection between the alert system and the lottery system. So if that is true, then what you're saying would make sense. But I've been fairly removed from that component.
That's what I thought, but I was like, well, she might have more information than me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Are there other questions that are specific to Director Manfred? Joya.
Sorry, took me a second there. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Director Manfred. So do we have a possible date for when we might be reaching the state metric on vaccinations? I mean, we're going up, right? So has the date backed up a little bit, right?
Yeah, you know, I haven't heard anything official around those estimates. I think it's a really hard target because there's no guarantee that the trends that we're seeing will continue, right, up or down in terms of folks getting vaccinated. So I haven't heard anything new from the state other than indicating that it's very likely the state will meet that metric before July 1st is the last that I've heard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Joya, the as of last week's, data poll or number poll, it looked like by the end of this week, but obviously we're not keeping on the same rate. So, but it does look like it might happen before Yamhill County hits the 65%.
It is appearing that way. Yeah.
So go Multnomah County, as I think what we should be saying right now. And with that, I'd love to invite Councillor Yarnell-Holman to add to this conversation from your perspective, both at Providence. How about that? And welcome.
Thanks. I wanted to jump on because I wanted to give my my gratitude to Lindsay and her team at HHS. And I have the privilege of working with all the Quad counties very closely. And I'll say that I'm working with Lindsay, and I'll say also Lindsay Lopez and Paul and really their entire team. They are so accommodating and so easy to work with, and always trying to provide access to our community and safe spaces within our different cities. And I've just seen a next level effort on their part to really go to the people. And so it's been super fun to participate in that work with them on behalf of Providence. And so with Providence, we have in Yamhill County, I was just counting actually, been able to really kind of offer a mobile, I don't know what we call it, Lindsay, at this point, but mobile community clinic type setting, which is super fun and has definitely been my bright spot of COVID. And so I've, done a lot with the convention center. I have drive-through sites in Portland, and it's been super fun in Yamhill County to be able to do these community pop-up sites. And so I think as of right now, we've done 16 events throughout Yamhill County over the last 4 to 6 weeks. And those have been started out, we've first focused on our homebound patients. And so Lindsay and team provided the list of homebound patients interested in the vaccine. And we were able to do, I think, around 210. The last I counted, we've done 210-ish Yamhill County residents that are considered homebound. That's been a variety of Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. And then from there, we focused on our houseless population. And so we were able to go to the COVID motels, which 2 in Mac, 1 in Newburgh. We've gone to most of the dinner services that we offer for our houseless population as well. And so that's been great also to just make connections with people. We've gone to quite a few manufactured home parks, which has been great. There's a lot of veterans in those spaces, as well as individuals that may have just transportation difficulties getting to a clinic. And then since then, we have expanded into schools, which is my personal favorite. And so that's been really fun. We've got to do Sheridan High School, Newburgh High School, Dayton High School twice. We partnered with Unidos for one of them, which was a huge successful event. We've done, we're doing Washer tomorrow in Lafayette, and we did Runaway twice in McMinnville. I think I'm missing one. Yamhill Carlton today. So we've kind of been all over the place, and it's been great. I think that the response from the community has been great in each space, and the schools have been super supportive. And yeah, so I'm just super grateful to be able to work with all of you and continue to provide access to the people and get up to 70%.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for reminding us that Director Manfred and the public health team are pretty awesome. I do actually hear it from Councillor Yarnell-Holman personally, but it's good to say it publicly, right? Are there questions for Councillor? Councillor Drapkin, I think, is just resting an elbow and not ready to ask yet. Okay. Any further questions for either Director Manfred or Councillor Yarnell-Holman? Well, I just want to say thank you to both of you for your work in the community. I mean, there are other people and other organizations that are doing it, but you're two of our prime leaders on getting vaccine doses into our communities and obviously into the region. So thank you. Very much appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to turn this over then to Superintendent Vickery, who is going to describe to you the Career and Technical Education Center that she is working on and how we can help.
Oh, yeah. We need help. Well, good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Dory Vickery, Superintendent for Sheridan School District. I started in July and came from Central School District, where I was for 13 years. And so it is interesting to be a superintendent in the middle of a pandemic and a new region to me, and getting to know Yamhill partners. But this project started with a board member walking to my office and saying, there's a property for sale down the street and we need to buy it. And I was like, sure, okay, what now? So it was a CEC manufacturing plant, made rock crushing material. And it is sitting on 8 acres. It's about 24,000 square feet. Massive garage doors all the way around, a separate paint shop. And it's ideal. It's across the street from our softball field. Students could walk down. So the idea came about, and we were able to hold a board work session. I invited a very dear friend of mine, Karina Lee, who did a lot of work in supporting the CTEC through Salem Kaiser in a private-public partnership with Mountain West, and she helped run that capital campaign. So she joined us for the work session and was able really to share about CTEC and their career pathways. And if you're not familiar with career technical education centers, more than one pathway, integrated curriculum, instructors are hired right from industry, very different model. And the goal being that students leave workforce job ready and with certifications in the various fields. You have to have a lot of close ties to industry. So we went from that board work session, ended up touring the property, and began trying to figure out, okay, how can we make this into a reality for Sheridan students, but also for students in the West Valley region. And I've met with superintendents. I've had a meeting over in Grand Ronde. I've had a couple of conversations with Commissioner Kua, and it was just, okay, how do we partner and make this work? So more recently, we actually made an offer, and it has been accepted. And so we have a fully executed offer now, and contingent upon all the studies that we need to do on the property. And certainly under our consideration are all the capital improvements that we will need to do to make it public school ready. So that's restrooms, ADA access, paving the parking lot, constructing classrooms, and just numerous things that we have on that capital project list. So the career pathways that we are looking at, and really this is just proposed, because my next task is going to be to have an advisory formed that we will really start to look at our industry needs in Yamhill County. And I'm grateful that I was on a workforce meeting just a couple of weeks ago that Commissioner Kua hosted, and just learning about hospitality and tourism and just some of these areas of need in our county. So hospitality and tourism is one that we are looking into very strongly. And the others are ag business, manufacturing, and residential construction. So those are the 4 main ones. And this will definitely be a work in progress that we, go with a couple of them and then grow our programs. And it was interesting meeting with the team at Grand Ronde and hearing about their needs in hospitality and tourism. I also had a meeting with a whole team from Chemeketa, and Holly Nelson brought the whole crew there. It was fabulous, from every department. and I was able to learn about the opportunities for students to earn college credit while in high school on that CTE pathway. Along with that, the pre-internship opportunities. So as juniors or seniors, they would have that pre-internship phase in their chosen pathway and then go right into Chemeketa for their internship program. So it was really exciting to hear how we can partner with Chemeketa on this, and to hear about, from their perspective, some of the needs in the Yamhill County region. So that's a snapshot of the whole thing, and where I've been, and trying to do this as superintendent has been pretty challenging. I'm relying heavily on the knowledge of people in this county, and I also had a very positive meeting with our local superintendents, and they were able to tour the property, and we're super excited about this. So we're getting to the point of coming together to say, okay, how will this work as a regional career technical education center? Happy to answer any questions, or if there's things that I can elaborate more on. If I can, I will try.
Well, thank you, Superintendent, for getting us started with that. And you have, of course, both Takesha Wydrow here, who is in your community, but also Joya Goodham has, tremendous experience with hearing from business owners. So, Joya, if you haven't met, consider yourselves met now, and you should talk together. Yeah, but in the
Definitely,
meantime,
please call me.
And in the meantime, do you have any comments from the folks arrayed here today? Comments, questions for Superintendent and Takesha?
That's super exciting. I love hearing about all of that. That's really, really exciting. I'll probably, when I can meet in person again, I would love to tour that and just have a little bit more information so I can help promote it with our chamber guys and revitalization, and also just to see if there's any cooperative effort between Delphian and the school district would be great as well. But that's very exciting. I'm so glad.
The feedback that I continue to have is just this idea of revitalizing this region of Yamhill County, job creation, just to boost up the economy, because definitely there's a lot of work to be done on the building. And trust me, I walk in there and it's like, okay, how are we going to make this into the educational arena that it needs to be, and basically section off for each of the pathways. And then, of course, there's the 8 acres going back. So where would we move a portable back there? I would love to have, Chemeketa more on site. I would love to have adult education classes in the evening. I think that there is a need for that as well in our region. So this is pretty much a clean slate right now. I mean, if people have ideas and they want to be on this advisory, you are more than welcome.
So cool. That's so cool. I mean, yeah, entirely what this area needs is revitalization and enthusiasm for our young folk to be able to kind of renew the area. It's going to be in their hands. So getting them trained up and enthusiastic about staying in this area is definitely where it's at.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you, Takesha. Mayor Watkins wants to comment.
Just a quick question, and I think you've already answered it, but I wanted to verify this. So this will be open to, once you get moving ahead on it, all of the schools in the region, or so we'd be able to send kids over from Yamhill, Carlton, and it's going to be truly regional.
That is my goal, because, and you can look on a map, and I'll be honest, I didn't start this with any kind of intent of competing against another organization. And the Willamette Education Service District, Willamette ESD, who's a big support of so many districts in the rural counties here, that they had started Willamette Career Academy. That is also a CTEC, and it is located in the old Toys R Us building on Lancaster, due to open this fall. there was an opportunity to join, and there were districts basically on this side that said that is too far for our students to go to travel. So while I'm not trying to compete with them, it kind of is for funding, but certainly for Yamhill Carleton, and as we were talking about superintendents, like, okay, how far is too far? Within a 30-minute drive, is that reasonable? So definitely, the need to make it regional, for districts to jump in and support with funding to help with guiding the career pathways. And once you get your career pathway going, each pathway needs to have an advisory. So we will start with a very broad advisory for the project. But then once we get going in hospitality and tourism, if as organizations around Yamhill County want to participate, we're going to need a team to guide that pathway. So I hope that answers your question. It definitely needs to be regional because the space is large enough. The other point that we're going to need to figure out is, like, if we're going to really replicate the Salem-Keizer C-Tech, they offer for juniors and seniors. And the local high schools are on a block schedule, which allows the students to come for a full day, like 2 days a week. So that's very different because your CTE programs can take much more time than your standard class period. And I know, like, Newburgh has a fabulous student-run business for their high school and with manufacturing, and it's scheduled towards the end of the day because students oftentimes will have to keep working on projects. So what I've learned from Salem-Keizer is the challenge of when you get to that point of what scheduling will look like, because you would really need most of your high schools to be on a very, very similar schedule, or it won't work for the students to come to Sheridan for those pathways. Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mayor, do you want to do any follow-up?
Thanks. Yeah, I did. I lowered my hand, then raised it again. How does this dovetail in with some of the programs that we had talked with Abisha at SEDCOR about? Because there are some workforce development things that they're doing for a lot of the same age group, I think. And I was wondering, I guess, if you've talked to them or if there's any dovetail there or just some different goals.
Well, that's the other part of the research that needs to happen, is really understanding what pathways are already offered at our local high schools, and then making this either an extension of or offering completely new pathways. And I have not had a chance to meet with Abisha yet. I first met her on the workforce call that we were all on. And I would love to have an opportunity to talk to her. To work with SEDCOR and to really find out, because if you see manufacturing, that is so broad. And I continue to hear welding is needed. I have a funny story about meeting a gentleman who ran a roller coaster company in South Salem, and he needed TIG welders. I went and toured it. I was able to walk down, really looked like a small operation, and he was shipping international. Blew me away. And I remember he had 25 employees, and I think he told me that all but 5 were going to retire in the next like 10 to 15 years. I mean, it was just going to be, he's like, Dory, I really have got to get this going and get a plan in place. And he talked about TIG welding. I was like, I have no idea what TIG welding is. So to dive deeper into this idea of manufacturing and what is needed is really important. And that's really in the next few weeks that we will get that going. And also as we continue to raise the funds for the project.
And I know, Mayor, to add to a bit of your question, that Superintendent and Shemeketa have been talking to make sure that, their work, her work combines with their work, complements it. So, which was part of that, like, younger person workforce development and training. But I will, while we're on the call, make a email connection too, which I think I owe anyway. Are there other questions or comments for Dory? Howie.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Thank you, Dory, for being here. I have two questions. The first one is, what is your time frame to get up and running, or at least implement the beginning of this process? And the second one is, are you interfacing with McMinnville and Newburgh high schools where they're already doing some of these career path things to make sure that their students have a place to go after they're out of high school or going to go into college?
Right, so the time frame, I'm learning a lot through this. I can be very ambitious as a leader. I'm like, oh, gee, we'll start in fall of 22. That is our goal, so a year and a half out. I failed to mention when I explained, some of our funding, that Representative Gomberg has the project on the list for state lottery funds at 1.9 million, which would be a tremendous, tremendous help. I have testified at Ways and Means twice, actually. The first very large group, and then a subcommittee for capital projects. You wait an hour and 15 minutes to talk for 2. I've never done that before, so it was an interesting experience. What I learned about the lottery funds, I thought, oh, well, if we get the funds, they're just going to cut us a check. Well, that's not the case, because they have to sell the bonds, and we may not get that funding until as late as spring of 23.
Wow.
So yes, I was shocked, and I was like, did someone not think to tell me that ahead of time? So I have heard of possibilities of some private donations that will not charge us interest, and that we can keep moving. But really, the time frame is just going to be dependent upon how quickly an advisory council will move, what this will be like for basically the capital project and getting the funding secured. And I do have a contract with a project manager, Bob Collins with Day CPM. He has managed bonds in the past for Sheridan School District, and he's been out to tour the property, and he is on board and ready to go. In fact, this afternoon, he has a meeting with our realtor to make sure that all the assessments, everything that we need to do on the property are in place. So that is another very key person that I am relying heavily on as we move through this process. But that timeline is really going to depend upon the funding. I can also say that Sheridan School District plans to go out for a bond levy in May of 22. And so definitely this property, the CEC property, CTEC West, will be part of that. We also hope to do a significant remodel of our high school. So as far as McMinnville and Newburgh, they have extensive career pathways. And so I don't want to duplicate. And that's what I was thinking of, are there some areas that we can go deeper, or am I going to learn from SEDCOR and Willamette Workforce Partnership that, look, there is such a need right now that if you were to have students go through, they will still find jobs. So that's what I really need to hear. I really am not wanting to duplicate. And I know, for culinary, we have students that go from Sheridan to McMinnville just for the culinary program. And we don't have a plan for culinary. Hospitality and tourism very quickly rose to the top. And I also continue to hear the need for residential construction. And Salem Kaiser has that program down, and if we could just replicate it, it is fabulous. There are people that donate their projects for the high school students to come out. And it's just a really, really unique opportunity to partner with your community for residential construction. So those are the two main ones. But yeah, we're going to need the funding, and we're going to need people just willing to jump in and be on this advisory committee.
Nice. Are there any other questions? I feel like Joy had her hand raised, but maybe not.
This is super exciting to hear that you're working on this program. Myself, Jeff Knapp with Visit McMinnville, Dave Rucklows from Downtown Association, and Paul Davis and Eric Ayabi, I think is how we pronounce his last name, have been talking about a hospitality program for high school students, but also for people who are currently working or if they need to level up some of their skills. And so hopefully we're going to be actually offering that program shortly for the community, and our businesses will be able to register and sign up their staff to participate. There's all kinds of opportunities with Chemeketa to do this. So we're hoping that we were going to bring that to the high school students, but if you're going to do it, fine with us. That'll be great. As long as someone is doing it, because our kids need opportunities, and we got to give them the skills that they need so they can go out there and get that job. And, particularly if you're in high school and you're looking for a summer job and you have no skills, something like this can help them, raise them up so that they have what they need, and a certificate that they can walk in the door and say, I have these skills.
Right.
And the other thing I heard today is our labor pool is really struggling. We don't have labor. And a lot of that has to do with we don't have in-migration of people coming from other states to Oregon. And so our unemployment right now is like at 5.9 or 5.6% here in Yamhill County, which is super low. It's below the whole state level. And so if we can find ways to train these kids to go and find jobs, then we are backfilling some of those open jobs that perhaps is not being filled by people moving here. So I'm super excited about this. I'd love to meet with you and talk further about what you're trying to do. It's exciting. Thank you. Thanks, Dory. It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. And the need for training for in hospitality and tourism for adults currently in that field of work, that came out loud and clear with Grand Ronde as well. Event planning was another one that they mentioned, and there's a bunch of things that can fall under hospitality and tourism. So they mentioned not only just how they are able to hire for the Spirit Mountain Casino, and there's a large number of people in the Sheridan community that work at Spirit Mountain, and so but I hadn't even thought of event planning under hospitality and tourism, but that is also a pretty big need. Yeah, so thank you. And yes, I think it would be great to meet with your McMinnville team and just learn more about, what is needed for the job space. So.
And I'll note that Councilor Drabkin reminds us that many venues require 21 and over per federal law.
Yes, and
good reminder.
Dayton High School years ago had a partnership with Stoller. And so you get into the ag business or ag science on the growing of grapes, not the manufacturing. And I didn't know this, but wine actually falls under manufacturing, manufacturing as a food source. And I think manufacturing and food production was another area that Chemeketa talked about. So definitely some great information there. But that's why we were including the ag business or ag science for the growing of the produce. So, but thank you. Yes, correct.
Perfect. That's a really good movement in direction. Joya.
Yes, thank you for saying that about ag and food manufacturing, because one of the city of McMinnville has a strategic plan, economic development strategic plan, which includes food production. And certainly that is such a huge issue, opportunity here. I mean, coopers and making wine barrels, there's all kinds of different things that are happening here within our community that could use these ancillary businesses that support them in the production of food things and wine and beer and things like that. So yeah, super exciting.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions for Superintendent? Great. It's wonderful to have you join us. Thank you so much. And I'm going to keep going around our roundtable because it's getting, late in the day, as it were. But I want to go to Mayor Watkins. What would you like to share with the community from this last week?
You know, I was thinking that it had been a very quiet week, and I started trying to write things down, and I realized that it hadn't been that quiet. Our big thing was
amnesia.
Pardon?
I think that's what you call amnesia.
Yeah, old age, more like it. Saturday we had our Recology dump day. We try to do about 2 of those a year, and as usual, they're always well attended. It really is wonderful. It's one of the few things that we get to do for I think our community as a city that they don't have to pay for. Well, at one level they're going to pay for it, but at least they feel like they're getting it free. And we had a great turnout. I don't know, there were 30 cars, I think, lined up before we were by 8:30, and we weren't starting until 9. So it's kind of remarkable, and it's really nice to do. I just found out today that we have our first 2 residents moved into our new subdivision, JR Meadows 1. So I'll have to cruise on. Yeah, we're doing our part for affordable housing at $500,000 a pop, but you do what you can. Anyway, I'll have to go down and check in with them and see what's going on there. We're still planning. I think might have even been today. I can't remember exactly. We are doing our training for our lifeguards. We're cautiously optimistic. All we can do is just kind of keep moving ahead on that, and hopefully we'll in June actually see kids swimming in the pool. We'll see what happens. We lost one of our businesses in town. They will be doing mail order, but they had some health problems, and their Republic of Jam is closing their doors. So she'll still be doing, I think, some mail order stuff. And if she gets through her health problems, okay, I think she'll be ready to start back up. But right now she just needs to take a break. So we were sad about that. And rumor has it that Park and Main, which is our pizza place, is going to be kind of filling in on that and starting ice cream. They've been doing pretty well with their own homemade ice creams, and so I think they're going to be starting up there. So I don't think the space will be empty for too long, which is good. We're still talking with the county about getting our railroad easement cleared. I think there's some movement in that direction on that. The railroad easement for the old rail easement goes through, basically almost bisects Carlton, and it goes through a lot of residential areas, and people in those areas particularly are very concerned about the overgrowth of blackberries and also just the trees in there, particularly right now as we look at whatever's going to happen with our fire season. It's pretty unnerving. So we're really hoping that we can get something in there and get that cleaned out. And let's see, what was it? Oh, and the police department is getting a new garage, I guess you could call it, for all the police vehicles that we have. We had an old pole barn that we were using. It was not what you'd particularly call secure. We're just probably lucky that nobody broke into it and stole the police cars. But anyhow, that's been demolished, and they're getting a new building. So that's, I think, yeah, that pretty well covers it. So I was thinking that there wasn't much going on, and apparently there is. So that's it.
Great, thank you. And did the city get in a request for congressionally directed spending for the sewage treatment plant?
I believe, yes, Shannon did get that done. Oh, that was the other thing. Today I signed a contract for us to start doing with the company that will be doing the replacement on the water line. Not the dam, but the water line for our water transmission line from the reservoir down into town. And I know that I know that Shannon was working with she's been back and forth with Commissioner Sterrett, and I think with some of the other congressional and state people on working on that. That was pretty much what she was doing, I think, for the last 2 weeks, is trying to do that. And we have talked to the to the state about the low interest loans, the one-stop shopping. So if all else fails, I think we'll be suited to do that, to get a loan. But to the extent we can, we would like to avoid doing that. So yeah, so it's been a busier week than I thought. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us and updating. And I'm going to ask, are there questions for Mayor? All right, then I'm going to invite Councillor Drapkin to share with us what's going on besides Wine County or Wine Country Pride, which I was just telling her that everybody tells me it's Wine County Pride, and it's actually Wine Country Pride. So,
yeah.
Hold on, my notebook's over here. I'm doing too many things at once, but listening is one of them.
Including being in a Christmas scene.
Well, I'll be honest. Don't tell anybody. But what I kept realizing is I have too many really beautiful paintings of naked women around my house. And I can't get my screen to do that blurry thing. So before council budget meeting last night, I thought, how inappropriate. I sat on my Zoom screen. I thought this would be so inappropriate to have this beautiful oil painting potentially accosting people. So my dog's Christmas photo there, or Hanukkah photo, is what made is what my background is from now until I figure out how to make my screen blurry. So I will tell you about Wine Country Pride a little bit more. So we have a tremendous number of events going on this year, and I encourage people to visit our website, www.winecountrypride.com. We have initiatives going through the whole month of June that include the flag initiative. So any business in Yamhill County can request a flag through our website, and it is a free flag to fly. It's a Progress Pride flag. Also, we've set up places both in McMinnville and Newburgh where people can purchase Progress Pride flags if they'd like to fly them at home. So it's at Sustainable Rituals in the Mac Market and at Pollinate Flowers in Newburgh, at their shop in Newburgh. We also have a drink initiative for coffee shops, restaurants, wineries, bars. It's called Rainbow Quest, and it mimics the Meltdown, and lovely Diane Longacre has been organizing it for us, and so it works in the same fashion. I know everybody's familiar with that. So Pride-inspired drinks with $1 back to Wine Country Pride. And then we have multiple events going on throughout the last weekend in June. We have a launch party on Friday night at the Mac Market. That's an unticketed event, so folks can come and there's some games, etc. Meet our sponsors and see all the number of people that are involved. On Saturday morning, we have a public vehicle pride parade happening in Newburgh. And on Saturday, we have the main event, which is held at Remy Wines, in which we have a live streamed dragway, it's called, which is also a pride parade, in which all of the colors of the Progress Pride flag are represented by different organizations. And so organizations that have been equity focused for a long time in our area, including organizations like Assemblage and Ahivoy. We have Unidos, the First Baptist Church will be represented. So we have, I think there's 11 colors in that flag, so 11 different organizations. And an ongoing raffle. And then Sunday we have another ticketed event as well. What those dollars are going towards are scholarships that we're administering through PFLAG. Our goal is to have one scholarship available at every public high school in Yamhill County. And those scholarships are for graduating seniors that are going on to, or graduating youth who are going on to any type of vocational training or furthering their education. And then we also have some other initiatives we've added, including books to both the Newburgh and public libraries, and a host of other things. So that's the month of June, and then especially the last weekend in June. We've tried to give lots of different ways for people to participate. Let's see. Edible Landscapes of Yamhill County has started putting in some great plantings, edible plantings in our planter boxes up and down Alpine Village. We have just been Alpine Village. I'm redistricting the area. I'm renaming the district. I know they've spent a lot of work.
I was going to ask you if that was a change.
Yeah. Alpine Village is just wait for it. We're going to have ski slopes put in. It's going to be really great. So let's see. What else do we have going on here? We have we've just finished a major part of the budget process, reviewing our budget within the city of McMinnville. That was a multi-day event. There's a lot of things going on, you guys, and I'm not well organized for this meeting today. I apologize. So I'll just stop right there. Ask questions. I'll be better at answering. Yeah, thank you.
I've always got a question for you.
Are you still needing sponsors?
For Wine Country Pride, we have had a wonderful outpouring of sponsorship. We are still taking raffle items, and the raffle that we're doing will be not only in person, but also on our live stream, with people being able to purchase tickets throughout the event, and they just use Venmo to purchase those tickets, so that we had a lot of online purchasing that last year. I'm also really encouraging people to get watch parties together, because of course we are only able to have so many people on site. And so I'm really encouraging watch parties. There's no cost for the live stream ticket. The live stream link will be both on our Wine Country Pride website and our Remy Wines website. But I think that outpouring of support would be great. Raffle items are value of $100 or greater, and then you get social media support and of course shout outs during the event.
Thank you.
Nice. Howie.
I just wanted to make sure, because on Facebook I had seen that they were still taking sponsorships, and I just wanted to make sure.
We didn't close sponsorships, just when folks are asking me how they could help right now, right. I'm saying, do something representative of your business or your organization, and then we can link back to you directly, because for this year, we're good on sponsorship, and we'll be coming, this is an annual event, so we'll be doing more next year. And we still have a sponsor button on the website. If anybody wants to go in and donate some money, by all means, go in and donate some money.
Is McMinnville Community Media going to shoot any film of your parades or any of that? That is not part of the plan at this time, but certainly if they want to get in contact with us, we'd be open to that. We have somebody that donated their videography expertise to come in and do the live stream, but always open to more. And I think the Newburgh parade, especially, that would be a wonderful place too for community media. Awesome. Thank you.
And they're listening right now. All right,
at gmail.com for follow-up questions regarding that.
Perfect. Any other questions for Councilor Drabkin?
I can also talk about the wine industry, affordable housing, and DEI initiatives.
Awesome. Do you have an update on since we don't have Councilor Yarnell Holloman here, on the YCAP Providence City's motel project purchase?
I don't know how much of that process is being discussed yet, so I hesitate to stick my foot in my mouth. I will tell you that the mayor and myself as council president and also chair of affordable housing, and Kelly Mankey as the vice chair of affordable housing, sent a letter of support last week to let Project Turnkey know that the city of McMinnville is giving its full support to the process.
That sounds like a good start. Great. I'll keep you posted. Okay, thank you. Are there other questions for Councillor Dropkin? All right, I'm gonna thank you very much. And if you remember something, just raise your candy cane.
Sounds good.
I mean, we can see your candy cane even if you can't. Yeah. Keisha Wydro, what would you like to share with people in the community today? But you're like, no. But we made the connection around CTE, so.
Yeah, nothing today, but I'll have more next week.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And then Howie Harkema, what would you like to share with the community?
Well, some wonderful things occurred last week for the realm of our homeless population in McMinnville, in the fact that the library, the McMinnville Public Library, has agreed to allow us to do food servings from underneath the breezeway on Sundays because of the shutdown of Champion Team and the fact that there is no current lunch or dinner or breakfast on Sunday, which would bring it up to 7 days a week dinners once we start implementing this. So it will be Sundays at 1 o'clock underneath the breezeway. We're looking for volunteers, of course, to help manage all of that and get the food out to everyone and get the PR information out to everyone as well, besides Facebook. So we're very enthralled that the library has joined with us to make sure things are happening in this interim period where everything seems to be mobile. So we're very appreciative of Jenny Berg and her staff for allowing us to do that. We also found that we can use the Carnegie Room for the court dates that Kristen Norton does, and she can use it as her office every Wednesday from 8 o'clock on throughout the day, every Wednesday for those court dockets. So it's been fantastic.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, Howie. Thank you for that good news.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Howie? And Howie definitely will need to make connection with superintendent. It just feels like doing at some point when it's up and running, adults doing classes and training would be a fantastic part of Encompass.
I do have a couple things that I would like to ask Dory if we have just a minute or two left. And the first one is kind of more of a comment. I came from a manufacturing background. I worked at 26 years at a corporation. And what they found was that welders and machinists were all graying out, and there were no apprenticeship programs anymore. So this is an opportunity for Yamhill County to not only trickle into Yamhill County with welders and machinists and others due to the fact that there is no apprenticeship programs, and outwardly into the Portland metro area, Eugene, et cetera, et cetera. So I see this as a huge boost to Oregon, not just Yamhill County, Dory. And I just wanted to say that up front. The second thing is a question, and it is more regarding, do you, sometimes you can train people and they can get the hard skills to do the labor, but getting the soft skills to get along with other people when they're at that labor pool sometimes gets them fired. Have you been thinking about how to soften the blow that it takes more than just doing the job?
Great question. I have been to CTEC in Salem, Kaiser, and toured it several times. And when you walk into the welding section, a student will immediately walk over, shake your hand, look you right in the eye, say, welcome, and briefly explain, offer to answer any questions. And then they are trained to say, it's been very great. It's been great to meet you. Now I have to get back to work. And they focus so much for those juniors and seniors on their employee skills. I believe they even have a curriculum for it, because you're exactly right. It's one thing to get the skill. It's another thing to understand exactly what it's going to be like to have a supervisor, to show up on time, and to, all those attributes that we want from employees that make a successful business. So yes, the other thing that CTEC does that I think is really interesting is they offer to students that they will pay for the monthly drug test. And if the students sign on and are willing to do it, they leave at the end of their senior year with a certification that they are drug-free, that they can hand to their next employer. So I think it's, that is another step that they take in the students to own their career path and own the work that they need to do, and just make sure that they are fully ready for employment.
Well, I need to talk to you on many other things. So thank you.
Okay, would love to. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Howie, and thank you, Superintendent, for joining us. It's been really good to get all these ideas bounced back and forth for you. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's good. Great questions.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other comments before we head out into the world or back not on our Zoom screens? All right. Well, it's been wonderful to have you all here again. And we are getting closer to being done with this stage, I guess, of the pandemic. I was talking to somebody earlier about how it does seem like at some point we're just going to be in a spot where, say, the coronavirus is with us, but it doesn't create crises anywhere in our communities. And I sure am looking forward to that day. We'll figure out how to transition from being coronavirus focused to just being community building focused. So until then, stay safe, everybody. Get the vaccine if you can. Be kind to your neighbors and your friends and retail workers, because they sure have a hard time right now. And look forward. I think we have the potential to look forward these days. So thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.